Very good evening to all of you. On behalf of Auditing and Assurance Standard Board of Institute of Chartered Accountant of India, I welcome you all in today's 112th CP program organized by AASB of ICI. The topic of today's webinar is Audit Evidence and Audit Sampling, SA 500 and SA 530. In order to tackle this, we are having with us very learned speaker, CA Sunil Bajaj ji, and also Honorable Chairman of Jammu and Kashmir branch of NIRC of ICI, CA Vikas Purdhani ji. So on behalf of AASP of ICI, I extend my warm welcome to you, Honorable Chairman, J&K branch, CA Vikas Purdhani ji. Namaste, sir. Welcome. I also welcome learned speaker CA Sunil Bajaj ji for this very important webinar. In spite of having very critical some family issues, sir is we are kind enough. Sir is here to deliberate on the topic. So without wasting much more time, I request Honorable Chairman of J&K branch, Sri Vikas Purdhani ji, to please start the proceedings of today's webinar. Over to you, Honorable Chairman, sir, please.
Thank you, sir. I welcome you all to this webinar on audit evidence and audit sampling, organized by Auditing and Assurance Standard Board of ICI. SA 500 standard explains what constitutes audit evidence in an audit of financial statements and deals with auditor's responsibility to design and perform audit procedures to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence to be able to draw reasonable conclusion on which to base the auditor's opinion. And likewise, SA 530 standard applies when the auditor has decided to use audit sampling in performing audit procedure. It deals with auditor's use of statistical as well as non-statistical sampling when designing and selecting the audit sample, performing tests of controls and tests of details, and evaluating the result from the sample. I now straight away call the man of the hour, learned guest speaker CA Sunil Bajaj ji, to deliberate on today's topic and to share his knowledge in depth and in detail. But before that, give me just 2-3 minutes to elaborate about the credentials of the man. Sunil Bajaj sir is a partner at SR Bartley Boy and Company LLP and is dealing in risk management. He has over 26 years of rich experience in financial audits, risk management reviews, business process reviews, and has extensive experience in services and automobile industries. Sir is an alumni of Sri Ram College of Commerce. He is a fellow chartered accountant from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and is also a certified internal auditor from International Institute of Internal Auditors, Florida, USA. Sunil sir is responsible for rolling out various firm-level risk management policies, clarifications, and initiatives. He has extensive interactions with all the market segments and service lines and with the international teams to ensure that various firm-wide independence, ethics, code of conduct, regulatory, conflict, and other policies requirements are well understood and adhered to by all firm personnel. Sunil sir was nominated for a global project on independence compliance. This project provided him with an opportunity to be involved in compliance reviews of 6 countries, practices of other international network firms across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Sunil sir has also worked in the US practice of global firm of Ernst & Young. This opportunity involved working as a senior team member on various large US office auditing engagements. He has also been given a Chairman Value Award, was selected as his firm India Value Champion for clearly and consistently living the firm, in the firm's value. He is also a keen sportsman and has represented Delhi State and Delhi University in national and inter-university championships. His interests span across basketball, softball, and mountaineering. Sunil sir is also a co-opted special invited member of the ESB, that is Ethical Standard Board, for last 5 to 6 years. And the most important part is his adherence to trainings. He has instrumented at several in-house and external national and international training courses on various subjects, including complex business accounting, auditing methodology, audit documentation, risk management, leadership, ethics, and value, etc. I thank you, sir, to be part of this, and now I tell him to be now take over the session and give everyone everything about today's session.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Vikas ji. Thank you very much. Just checking, am I audible? Am I audible
Yeah.
and loud and clear?
Yes,
No,
sir.
great. Thanks a lot. It's an honor. It's an honor and privilege to be invited by the institute and given this opportunity to share the experiences. And Vikas ji, I will say also to learn. So I am not as much used to a webinar, which opportunities come once in a while. But I always prefer for an interactive session. And if people who are attending, I'm told from across the globe. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So thank you very much for joining. And if they have any question, I would request if the office can support. If anybody puts any question, it can be asked then and there instead of a Q&A at the end, which we will still do. But if there's anything relevant and if somebody is monitoring the Q&A box and if something can be prompted, we can take it up then and there. And I don't know if unmute opportunity is there, the tech support, if they can permit, we can even interact with the participants only if it is permitted. But coming back, as you rightfully said, audit evidence. So I would say audit evidence, audit sampling, these are quite integral to all the participants who we are doing. If we are auditors, we are chartered accountants, if this profession has given the opportunity, like in my introduction when you said 26 long years, I'm sure it's much less than many others attending, so I'm still learning. And but in this 26 years, what I have definitely learned, that if it is not documented, it is not done. Gone are the age when only we as auditors used to go and audit. Like I began as my introduction, like in Shriram College of Commerce, and I came directly into the the CA world. Day one, what I have learned is documentation. Linking the numbers, linking the work papers, documenting everything, and therein, if we do not have a correct approach, if we do not have a correct approach on what kind of audit evidence we are basing our audit upon, and amongst the audit evidence, what kind of a sampling technique or a sampling basis we have applied, any regulator, be it NFRA now, be it the institute, as I'm part of the ethical standard board, and many other disciplinary committees are there. Even we as professionals, if we ask ourselves, like if we are called upon to interact with each other, and therein, if suppose we are doing a peer review, or we are doing a quality review, or we are having even a cup of tea amongst ourselves as professionals, and we want to talk and interact, what did we do, how did we do? Just saying that I did that, just saying that this is how I went about doing it, can be a good conversation. But will it hold good in a court of law? Will it hold good in a disciplinary proceeding? Will it hold good in establishing that I actually did what I set out to do? I am getting paid out of all, I'm getting paid to do some work. And on that work and the outcome, lot of stakeholders across the strata, be it the shareholders, be it the management, be it the stock markets, India, overseas, public at large, regulators, I would say everybody is relying on our work. And that's where the Prime Minister, the Finance Minister, all of them are encouraging us to do our work diligently and thoroughly. And therein, I believe that unless our approach is based on appropriate, adequate audit evidence, unless we do that, I don't think we'll be doing justice to the work or the responsibility, which has been bestowed upon us as professionals. And I say the same. It's the same for lawyers. It's the same for doctors. It's the same for all kind of professionals, that they have to maintain a good record of how did they go about navigating their field and arriving at a conclusion. I'll be honest, I've taken out a brace. Last evening I was with a hand surgeon, and I have been advised a surgery of my hand. So I'm just sharing it as just an example, an anecdote of last evening. Now, how did that person go about? When I went and met the doctor 2 weeks back, after a physical examination and a physical examination of what you have done for 26 years, that you have led to this pain. So then he asked me to get an MRI done. Then he asked me to get an ultrasound done. And then he asked me to get an X-ray done all together. Now, basis the X-ray, basis the ultrasound, and basis the MRI report and the films and the observation of the hospital radiology department, last evening when I spent an hour in his room, the doctor so nicely he put all the evidence in front of me, showing me the films, showing me the the damage in the whatever you may call it, which is causing the pain, showing the report and correlating them, and then telling me why he's advising me what course of action. So if a doctor does the same, I believe we are also treating the society and the economy in a manner of a progressive growth, and we are equally responsible to maintain evidence of how we achieved it, what advice we are giving to our clients, what qualification, if any, we are giving on our financial statements, what matter of emphasis, whatever statements we are making need to be well supported by a evidence. So in that space, let me try. There are a few slides if I can attempt to share them, and if you can tell me, Vikasji, when my screen is visible and you can see the slide. I'm just making a attempt to go live on the slides. Just 1 second. Give me a second.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
It's visible. So
Yes,
though
sir.
this is not showing the sky with the stars, I will say we should all wish the best of luck to the Chandrayaan landing in the next 1 hour. Let's hope everything goes well. Prayers and best wishes to all involved. And let's us take a deeper dive and see that 1 second. I'm just trying to move my slide. So when I said take a deeper dive into the topic, straight away we went into a shark tank, and there are the sharks moving around, and the auditors are outside saying, probably the client or the CFO, they heard that our audit involves a deep dive into the transactions of the company, the corporate or whatnot. And there you can see, to safeguard the information in whatever means and manner in a lighter sense, there the person has gone inside the shark tank, and now we have the challenge to go and take the audit evidence which is there on that table. So all the best wishes to Vikasji, you, me, and everybody else here, that if we who are outside that room, if we can be brave enough, we can be, we can find ways and means to go inside and take the audit evidence. Let's make an attempt on that. And with that, I will just, progress the evening. That on audit evidence, as you rightfully said, it will around for ages. This essay, like when I saw, it's like 2009. 2009 is when the statement came across for the first time. It may have got slightly revised later, a year, 2 years down the line, but it's nothing new. When we are deliberating today and we talk about audit evidence, I'm sure everybody who's present over here has studied it in some manner or the other, either in their graduation, definitely in their accountancy, CA exams and all, and they're all living it. They're all living it. But what I can try today is share some examples, go through the critical topic that the institute is requesting for the members to get again familiarize yourself with. And in that backdrop, what are the requirements? The requirements are for us to understand what exactly is meant by sufficient.
Please, sir. Please, if you can just remove this, there's on the screen EY PDF Exchange Pro update.
I can't see it. I'm sorry. I am unable to see it. 1 second. Let me go here. If this can pop up again. Now it has gone. And let me try and do the screen again. It may pop up again. Rajji, please, if you see it again, you'll have to prompt me again. And 1 second, if I can come onto the presentation, I take it again to the. Is my screen visible, or I think the office stopped it? So. Alt tab. Are you also able to see it, Vikasji?
Yes.
1 second.
Alt tab.
I've done that. I'm again going it back into the presentation mode.
Yes, sir, it's gone.
Okay. Okay, so this is a wrong view. Let me do it again. Apologies for this. This prompt doesn't go away. Now, Alt Tab. Just 1 second. We are in meeting. Vikasji is, I'm sorry, I'm checking with you again because I have no means of finding out.
Next slide is also good.
That has to go. Let me, 1 second, let me first close this. If you can do that for me, please. You have stopped share?
Yes.
I will first go and make it in a presentation mode. That's what you told me to do. This prompt is a problem. Now, tell me please, is it again, is the next slide visible?
Well, that PDF Exchange Pro update is visible. Next slide is not visible. But
Okay, let's do one thing. While I'm talking, I will close this. Can I do one thing? If you can WhatsApp me an email ID where I can email my slides and probably the office can present the slides. Is that possible?
I asked, can you?
No, we can't do that. Okay. So I will, how should we do it? Any other suggestions? How can we?
Will this be coming on every slide?
No, that's a prompt. That's a automatic laptop restart prompt, Vikasji, which I can't control unless I restart it and give it 15 minutes. It will not go away.
No,
So
no.
it's
Can't it be minimized? Further
it cannot
minimized?
be minimized because the minute it goes in this presentation mode, it automatically flashes up again. So
Let me call upon and ask whether it will make a.
is there a way to
अयाज एक बार आप देखो व्हाट्स द इशू
हिमांशु एक बार इधर आइएगा
अयाज check what's the issue and if it is possible सर एक बार आप स्क्रीन शेयर करके उसको स्लाइड शो में करें
मैंने वही किया था मैं एक बार फिर कर लेता हूँ लेट मी
with these this share the presentation then go for slide show
so let me do one thing
share once again
एक बार थोड़ा जल्दी आइए this 1 second it's a webcast live and we are having this prompt coming again and again this one
solution. You can just click on install, but it's by default.
no but if I click on install how will this work there's a live webcast going on I can't do installation work right now can we it will keep coming prompt again and again
सुनील सर, एक बार प्रेजेंटेशन करके देखें ना, उसको हम स्लाइड शो में करके देखते हैं, इफ इट इज पॉसिबल.
Yes, I'm trying to do. My IT team is just helping me. 1 second. Upload. अब एक बार दोबारा ट्राई करते हैं. Let's. We'll make a one final attempt. Otherwise, I will change the laptop. Okay. Just give me 1 second. ये भी आएगा ना.
You can like it.
Vikashi, I will just need 2 more minutes. I'm changing the laptop. So you're on mute.
Okay, sir. Okay, no issues.
So while the Vikasji IT is trying to address the issue, they are trying to get me a laptop where Zoom can function. I think there's no problem. For the interest of time of the audience, can I go without the slides for some time, and then probably I can come back to the slides if required?
Yes, sir. Kindly start without presentation, sir.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm very comfortable talking on the subject. So when we say that, 1 second, this camera.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Apologies to all the audience, and this was not anticipated. And technology is what it is. It enables us to come together, but it has its challenges as well. So in that space, what we have said that there is sufficient appropriate audit evidence is what is called SAAE. Now, if any auditor, any industry, any walks of life, any part of the country, wherever we are performing an audit, all of us need to somehow ensure that there is sufficiency and adequacy in the audit evidence that we are going about obtaining to form our opinion. Now, what all information can be used as audit evidence is also something that is covered by SA 500. What are the ways and means of selecting items for testing and obtaining audit evidence is also something which is part of the requirements or coverage of this essay that is there. If there's an inconsistency or there are doubts over reliability of audit evidence, then what we are called about to do, increase our sample, go about obtaining another evidence, see what else can be done. Let's see it this way, that why do we take audit evidence? We are taking audit evidence because in the end of the day, you and I are expected to give our opinion. And when we are giving an opinion, how we arrive at that opinion is something very subjective, very individual, and it is core to us. Now, all of us may be chartered accountants. We are, I believe. All of us are chartered accountants who are attending today. Some maybe is still in the process of obtaining the professional qualification and maybe attending as well. In whichever walk of professional life, as I was saying, doctor, lawyer, CA, whenever we are reaching an end conclusion, our opinion, there is no guidance which is mandatory, check in the box, tick list that if these 5 are done, it is enough. No, it is enough when you and I believe it is enough. It is enough when you and I believe it is appropriate. It is enough when you and I believe that we have obtained enough and relevant evidence which was needed to give an opinion. That's why it is an art. When we say auditing is an art, it's a profession, it's a science. Where that comes in is judgment is involved in reaching that. If I'm particularly today doing a manufacturing industry, today I'm doing a service industry, today I'm going for a stock take at a depot which has liquid stored, whether be it petroleum or some chemicals, how will I go about doing a stock taking? What kind of a vessel is there? What is the volume? What is the depth? Whether it has water or whether it has the chemical. Now, how I go about reaching that assertion of existence, valuation, it all depends upon collating evidence. So now all of us are qualified, all of us are well within experience. What it comes is the sufficiency, adequacy, and appropriateness of evidence. So this guidance that is there, this essay that is there is bringing about that consistency in the profession that, look, you can do as much as you want to do, but you'll have a constraint of time, you will have a constraint of fees that comes in with the efforts. But at the same time, since it's a chartered accountant which is putting that membership number and signing the opinion, there is something called bare minimum that must be done. And that bare minimum is something like when we say in a code of ethics or a code of conduct in any large organization or a larger body, when we are driving a consistent behavior or a bare minimum required, that is what this standard is saying. And then I say, if it is interactive and if we can get some audience examples, what we do beyond that is our experience, our ways and means of going about this. So the scope that it has, this essay 500 that is there on audit evidence, the scope that it says, it explains what an audit evidence is with respect to an audit of a financial statement. And then it deals with auditor's responsibility. how we go about designing audit procedures to obtain a sufficient audit appropriate evidence, and how we draw a reasonable conclusion to base our audit opinion. So that's the main parameters around which this SA 500 is built around. And if we study this, it's the core basic of audit profession, which says how you go about executing your responsibility, forming your opinion, and obtaining the sufficient audit appropriate evidence. When we are doing a designing and performing our audit procedures, we need to design them. We need to perform them in a manner that no, it's okay. I'll manage without the slides. I'll manage without the slides. I don't want to interrupt the session, Vikasji, again, in terms of changing the laptop. I'm very comfortable talking with the audience. And if this is the way to do it, we'll try to make it more interactive. So how the design and performance of the audit procedures that's happening is we go about obtaining the appropriate evidence. We want to draw our conclusions. We want to draw our conclusions, be able to say that the situation is true and fair. And when we want to say true and fair, how much work we have done to reach that is going to differ from every audit file. Do you agree with this or not, Vikasji? That when you go and audit, when you are supervising a team, when Sunil goes and audit, Anilji, Sanjeevji, Kamishaji, anybody and any of the other people who are present, whenever we are auditing, our files will be slightly different.
Yes, sir.
They cannot be same and consistent
Yes.
across the boundaries of India, Dubai, Americas, everywhere. But at the same time, we all are professionals. We need to be mindful that what is the bare minimum thing that we need to do? What is the consistency we need to have in the diversity of approach that we have, so as to obtain the bare minimum evidences which are required, which a peer reviewer will come and see, which a quality QRB, quality reviewer will come and see. Any regulator, when they come and inspect your files, your practicing unit, practicing entity, when they come and review, they are going to see and concur with you that you did enough, you did timely, and you did extensive coverage, appropriate coverage. So timeliness, extent of work that we did, and whether it was appropriate to the industry that you were auditing, and the situation that you were auditing in, the point in time that you were auditing in, the business, what situation of its business cycle was the business in. Believe you me, our audit evidence criteria's selection changes with all this. The same industry, if it's in a cyclical mode and it's going through a cyclical phase, our audit evidence in which phase point in time we are auditing them could be different than a year-end procedure or an interim procedure or a roll forward procedure, or when we are trying to see whether the asset is in existence, or we are trying to see whether it has been valued appropriately, or whether a good disclosure has been made. For all of these, our audit evidence will need to stand on their own feet and will need to be appropriate to the audit procedures being performed and the opinion that we are trying to arrive at. That's what my take is. So when you are going through the accounting records and accounting entries, when I started back in 97, I can share with all the audience over here, back in 97, when I started auditing, the concept of business audit was coming in the world methodology. I actually went to Amsterdam, not exactly Amsterdam, it was Eindhoven, and Eindhoven in a training facility that was there for 15 days. I was there, Vikasji, and over there we were taught on business audit methodology. And what we were told was, you're beginning your careers, across the globe, the audit profession is evolving to auditing the business rather than auditing the accounting entries in the books of account. You need to do the debits and credits. You need to audit the entries. But if you and I only go and sit into the finance office of a manufacturing facility, and we only sit there and we only see the vouchers, we only see the pink slip and the yellow slip and the white slip and the carbon copies, and we see the gate copy, the challans. Just take the documentation, which is a paper documentation, which is important. I'm not undermining the importance of that paper documentation, but what I'm saying is those accounting entries and papers are very important, but they cannot be all-encompassing and sufficient. So what we were taught and which I have done is, when you visit a facility, let's take an example of a manufacturing facility. I will give an example. I will not name the client, but it was a bubblegum manufacturing facility, and if I visit over there, believe you me, do not go directly to the finance. First, ask for a factory visit. So when you're doing a factory visit, you're walking the shop floor, you're going and interacting with the manufacturing people on the bay, you're going and seeing the wastages, you're going and seeing where the discard is kept, you're seeing exactly which chemical is coming, which brand name, which supplier is there. You walk up to the gate where the gate entry is being done and you talk to the guard. What happens when a lorry, we call it lorry receipt, so I'll call it lorry, or a truck comes in with the material? What do? Show me. And then they show you the gate register. They show you which color, what coding, how they enter the numbers, what they generate. After you've walked the facility and overseen the processes, then you go and do the business process audit together with the accounting entries. And why I'm giving this example to all the people present is the accounting entries need to be supported with your own predictive analysis or your own hypothesis of expectation. So when I met the shop floor person and auditor has come, nobody has come and talked to them, and you ask them, so how much are the wastages? Oh, sir, my wastages are only 3%. 2.8 is what I try for. Rarely does it go to 3.1. I make sure they stick to, and I'm giving, Vikasji, I'm sharing real life examples. I'm sharing what I have experienced. Very passionately, the shop floor person told me, my wastages are 2.8. The day it goes to 3.1, I lose my sleep and try to come this. Then in a monthly meeting, weekly meeting, we present the analysis of wastage and we report it to the manufacturing head, Mr. Chopra, blah, blah, blah. We do it fine. Fast forward 4 days, 5 days, and I go in and see the wastages, the profit and loss account that has been given to me by the finance office. And there the wastages number is coming to 8%. Now, what I had heard on the floor was 2.8. And what I'm getting in the balancing figure, as you know, when we did the audit, purchases are booked, sales are recorded, closing stock is taken in, and the rest of it is the cost of goods sold, COGS. And when that cost of goods sold is coming in, and when you have the input cost, the wastage also comes out as a percentage. And the wastage was saying 8%. Now I'm talking of multi-crore company, and the numbers of 8% are really high. Nobody till then had ever spoken to the shop floor person that his wastage is 2.8. So we called in for the MIS documents. What are the MIS that you have? What is it that you present to the top management on a monthly basis? They said, yes, we have it. We'll share it with you. And then when that came in, that said 2.8, 2.93. And the numbers that I had was 8. And then when you reconcile them to all, with all due respect, are fictitious purchases being booked? The wastage is 8%. Are fictitious. I'm not saying they are conclusive. But in your mind, with the audit evidence of a MIS, a verbal discussion with the shop floor person, a walk in the shop floor and a walk to the wastage bay, a walk to the gate, gives you an insight of what to expect when you are going and doing the audit. So if all the people present, if you can, to your articles, to your team members, I will with folded hand make a request that tell them to go and first understand the business. Go and first understand what industry the client is in. Go and first understand what do they manufacture or what do they provide, how do they do it, because then the human mind can also catch if a paper evidence is giving something to the contrary. If the documentary evidence is giving something which is very correct from the books of account, is very correct, debit credit is matching, the balance sheet is coming out, but the human mind will be able to catch that, no, this does not correlate to what I understood when I walked the floor. I will request to the auditors over here, all of them, understanding of the business and then correlating to the paper audit evidence of the entries and the bookkeeping will help us identify which are the 5 questions that I need to ask. When I say 5 is just a theory globally. And when you ask one question, the answer to that or an absence of an answer to that leads to the second question. And then the answer to that leads to the third question. You don't need to have all the 5 questions right at the beginning. But when you start asking the questions, the answers to that will let you know what question to ask next. And in process of this interview, interaction, studying the material, you have gathered enough audit evidence in your notes that you can have a hypothesis to say, okay, this is what I should expect when I get the number. This is the entries at the gate that I should get. This is the missing, something was a wastage, the quality check that happens at the gate. If the quality check took place and if there was a rejection, this is the kind of an entry that will be made. Now, when I go and check my books of accounts and I audit them, I will be more prepared to catch anything if it has gone wrong. And I'm never saying it is always intentional. I'm never accusing that the client are doing it intentionally. It could be inadvertent error. It could be an oversight. It could be that there is a compensating error made because of which a CFO or a finance team could not catch. And our purpose is to help the management to work together with them to prepare a true and fair view. We are not fighting or we are not at a competition with each other to discover something which is intentionally left out. The scope for whatever the the stakeholders may want to believe, the scope is not a forensic audit in a standard audit, in a statutory audit. It is a true and fair opinion, not a true and correct opinion. But if you understand the business and you go about doing it, it is akin to a forensic audit, which is now the need of the hour. With today's age, we see many stakeholders saying that we need to do more. We as chartered accountants need to take up the responsibility more to unearth, when I say not the Hindi word, but the English word, to unearth or unravel the mysteries or the unsolved, undiscovered matters. That is what is needed in an audit evidence. So my take is your experience will let you know how to reach at a conclusion, what evidence to ask for. The answer will change with every industry, every walk of life, every city. There will be different ways of doing different works. And that's what your gut will tell you when you go about and understand the business. Now, appropriateness of audit evidence, definitely, whether it is relevant, I have discussed. Now comes reliability. So in the reliability, when the same example, when you see, if a 8% wastage data was being given to me, my mind told me it is not reliable. Why? Because I've spoken to people which say it should be 3%. So then when I called for, and he had mentioned that they have weekly or monthly meetings where MIS is prepared. Now, no client can tell you that MIS is not part of audit evidence. I believe, and with my 26 years of experience, you are well within your rights and means to ask for anything. If it has something totally of a management accounting, which is not relevant to the books of account, it's not a non-financial data, something very confidential, a formulation of something. Like if I did a seed company, if I did a seed company's audit, I remember now the seeds and how the hybrid seeds were made and what was the plasma. If they had a plasma of a seed which was kept in the high secure vault inside, and it was valued in millions of rupees or something. Now that can be something confidential. That can be that access cannot be given to all the team members. So therein, one person, a senior team member, may still go and physically verify that inside a vault, and which is what I have done as well. Now, when you are saying that, can you rely on that evidence? Now, I am not a microbiologist. I am not a pharmacy person. Now, tell me, when you and I go, are we all capable of arriving at a conclusion that the evidence that is being presented to me, one, is it relevant? Second, is it reliable? So that's where I'll jump few slides. Now I'm a free man now. I'm not curtailed by the slides now. So I can jump between my slides. And now I'll go to the experts. In the slide deck, probably, Vikasji, this is a 10th slide, which I'm now pulling up by my mind, that if the relevance and the reliability needs to be checked, then in the reliability, the need of an expert may come in. So I may need to employ, either I find a person with a qualification and experience within my firm. It could be someone sitting in another city. It could be someone sitting in another partner's team. Doesn't matter. In the end of the day, we as a firm are giving an opinion. And if for that we need to employ the time and resources of another individual, it could be within my firm. or it could be outside my firm. So I may need to hire the expertise of an expert who's an industry expert, a renowned, veteran, a retired professional, or an experienced professional who has a credibility, who has a credential, whose certification or whose validation will help me put a document again as a evidence on the file that look here, I took an expert's help and I relied on that. It's very well allowed, and rather at times it is mandated. You and I are not always, and we need to respect that limitation. You and I are not always experts in all industries and all walks of life. So with all humbleness, we should accept that fact and ask for help when needed. And by the way, it could be a person from the client's payroll as well, means someone who's employed by the client as well. It could be a totally expert in a division, a non-finance division, whose word may be worthy enough for you to interact and understand. And by your interaction, you will come to know that they're talking about that subject and how they're establishing the credibility, and then they'll pull out the certifications, quality certifications, their own ways and means of doing. How do they check the efficacy of that product? How do they go about establishing that what I have is credible? When you walk that with them, see their documentation, from that you can either make copies or you can make notes. Now I'm trying to cover one more aspect. Audit evidence on file doesn't necessarily always need to be the original, doesn't necessarily always need to be a photocopy. It can also be the notes that you took, like minutes of board meetings. Either sometimes the company secretary gives us the copies, they freely give the copy, or they say, no, they are very confidential. I will not give you the copy. Please sit in my office and you read them. You see, if you find something, what do? I was taught, take a register, take a pen and paper with due permission. Okay, sir. Whatever are the key facts, date of an agreement, date of a resolution, who are the signatories who are entitled. I will make my notes, sign them off as a preparer and another person as a reviewer, and I will file it in my audit file as an audit evidence. That also is a credible audit evidence when it comes to any file review by peer reviewers, by QRB, by NFRA. It's well within your means to document something. So I'm trying to cover audit evidence. Could be original documentation, could be photocopies, could be excerpts, could be your handwritten minutes or a hand typed minutes in now today's age. They are all acceptable as audit evidence. You need to be mindful of their relevance and their reliability. Now, if you are taking let's jump topics again. If you're taking a bank confirmation, why do we say take a bank confirmation directly from the bank and not through the finance department? Why? If Vikas,
third parties confirmations are more reliable, as you said. Reliable is the word. So I be relying more on a third party evidence rather than evidence from the industry itself.
My question was, you said it right. My question was, why directly, and why not the bank can courier it to the CFO's office and the CFO can open the statement, the envelope, and they see it. Yes, it's fine. This is my account number. They validated this. This is my bank statement. And then they give the copy to your team member. What is wrong in that?
Probably to mitigate any time loss, because
what is the time loss? One is the time loss. Instead of going via a person, you are getting it directly. So you're on a deadline. There's a time loss. What else?
What is? For
sorry,
bank
I'm taking you as the entire audience.
Yeah, we are only
the entire audience, and I love to do it this way. So I'm taking you as a representative.
I've seen your videos. That's why I'm ready to be your
sample. You are my representative sample out of this audience. So one is time. Very good point. What else could be the reason that I want to obtain the audit evidence directly and not indirectly?
Because it can be I know the bank and I could easily fetch it online and everything can be
Yes, to avoid fraud, to avoid any tampering, and I don't want to name any company or any instances. I'm sure everybody here knows about the bank statement forgery and how bank statements were printed at the office of a very reputed company, and then they were provided to the auditors and the poor auditors. And I say poor auditors because we are the one poor people on this, on this webcast, so we can sympathize with each other. That when we are getting a statement which is signed, stamped, letterhead, everything, and there's no reason to believe that it could be fraudulent, but it turns out later that it is. So in confirmations, direct is also obtained. One, for you said timeliness, but more importantly than that it's obtained credibly, untampered. Whatever the other party wanted to convey to me, take the MSME confirmations.
Yes.
Whether you were paid in 30 days or not, whether historically you have been paid or not. So if they want to bring out any facts, they know the auditor is going to write to me directly. And then the client is also encouraged to pay everybody timely because they know otherwise they can reach out directly to the auditors. So I'm just giving one example. Now reliability, relevance, sufficiency of audit evidence, what all you need to do is again judgmental, but at the same time given by the SA 500. Now, when you take a management's expert, I said the expert could be from within the organization, from within the audit firm, could be from outside in the market, could be from the client's organization. So therein they say it could be an individual or an organization. The management expert that is deployed could be either be an individual or could be an organization. He may be possessing an expertise in that field. That's what you will look for. You just won't go random to any person. They are many a times we see from outside the field of auditing and accounting, because auditing and accounting, almost all of us are experts. Almost all of us on this webinar are experts when it comes to auditing and accounting. So the management expert usually is from a field outside accounting and opinion, whose work is used by the entity. That entity is also employing their certification or quality certification or something. So it could be well within from their roles, and their inputs in the end would go and help us in preparing the financial statements. Because after all, let's try to understand the evidence before it is used as an evidence by the auditor is actually a source documentation 99% of the time for the accounting entries to be made, because we audit what has already happened. Right? So then whatever is supporting the numbers or the position or the disclosures could very well be relied by the CFO, by those charged with governance, the management. They could have employed it to arrive at a number for goodwill valuation. They could have employed an expert already. So you can, estimation of a liability, possible, probable, remote. They could have already taken a legal opinion from a renowned legal counsel and taken the thing. Just because the client paid the fees and took the opinion doesn't render it useless. If the entity is reliable, is renowned, and you have no reasons to believe that is tampered with, you can rely on the audit evidence that was obtained, evidence or I will say a supporting, which was obtained by the management throughout the year for doing their work and by performing incremental procedures that can then form part of your audit evidence file. So it doesn't necessarily need to be obtained externally and at that time. Yes, you wanted to say something, Vikash.
Yeah. For example, for a firm where there are debtors and creditors, loans and advances, and somehow we are not able to get third-party confirmations. So for that, is there anything that we can write in audit report? For example, for 2 years, 3 years, I am doing for small firms where I have been seeing the same debtors being carried forward. And for them, they say they're all good and they're
I'll answer this this way. If last evening, if everybody was joined from the beginning and I said last evening I was with a surgeon for this arm wrist, what if the surgeon said to me, Vikasji, I have seen this MRI, though it is not conclusive and nothing is coming out, but because you are having a pain, let's go for a surgery. So though nothing is coming out in this, let's go for a surgery. So, or let me write down in your prescription that 6 months later come for surgery. There's no reason. So why I'm saying this is, if debtors are continuing and an external certification is not coming in, you ask me a question what to do. Debtors are carrying forward. I send out the confirmations. No reply has come. Very, very practical, very real life situation which we have encountered, and I'm sure everybody is encountering. Then what we do, I have done Vikasji personally, and I was taught by my seniors, and I am privileged that I had it, was then you also do a built up. You can do a built up. You can do from a last confirmation available, you can do a roll forward. So you may not have got the confirmation for this quarter or this year end. You may have it for a previous audit in your audit files. Hence, the previous audit work papers are also at times important, that you may have a direct third-party confirmation of the last year's audit. Now, what sale has been booked after that, what collections have been come, you can build up that account to get some more comfort around the existence and valuation of that debtor, which is an asset in your file. You will still circulate the letter, but you will not stop. Or it is very easy to say, give a disclaimer and say, I tried to circularize and obtain the confirmation, I did not get it. If all of us start doing this limitation in our auditor's report, we will soon be out of business. Because the client is not employing us, or the market or the stakeholders or the shareholders are not expecting us to just give limitations in our report. They're expecting us to think out of the box, do predictive analysis, do variance analysis, do roll forwards, do other tests to somehow reach a comfort that what I'm certifying is true and fair. And that's where the concept of tolerable error, planning materiality comes in, that true and fair and true leaves us with a good margin of error. When you are made to write true and correct, that day, sir, I will agree with you that you will insist on a confirmation. That day you will insist on, unless I get it, I will not certify true and correct. But I'm not giving true and correct, I'm giving true and fair. And the difference between fair and correct is my tolerable error, my planning materiality, my documenting it not in my auditor's report, not in my notes to accounts, but in my management representation letter. I can still give it to the directors and to the independent directors that, look, within my tolerable error, I had these many errors which have not been adjusted in the books of account, or there are these limitations I had in my debtors circularization, my creditors circularization. I have not been able to confirm all, but even if they go wrong, they will not be as wrong to materially impact the financial statements. And if they are not impacting the materially, I am allowed within the audit methodology, within the law of the land, to give a true and fair opinion. People on the audience, since you are unable to speak with me, don't take it that this is, I am giving any approval for us to let go of errors. No, my intention is not that. I am saying there's a concept called tolerable error. Depending on the revenue, depending on the capitalization, depending on the profitability, there is a whole science of arriving at what is a tolerable error. And that is there in the audit sampling essay that is there, even that touches upon it. So if it is your hypothesis or your variance analysis is giving you an outcome which is within that error range, you can pass it and move on after documenting it in your audit files. You don't necessarily need to bring it in the audit opinion. I am answering this, Vikasji, because you asked me if my debtor's confirmation has not come in, can I write something somewhere and move on? That's what your question was.
Yeah.
Writing or modifying the auditor's report will be my last resort. And when I tell that intention to the client, the management, to the CFO, I am sure they will go out of their way to somehow avoid that. And they will also make efforts to contact the debtors and say, look, you have received a letter from my auditor. I am requesting you, please reply. I have obtained direct confirmations with the help of the client calling them, because I said, this is the minimum coverage I'm looking for. If I don't get so many debtors direct confirmations, I will perform alternate procedures. I will do roll forward. Your deliverable will get delayed. Your team will need to work overnight and collate that information. All that can be saved if you can get me a direct confirmation. So I'm just saying there are ways and means of going about, and that's where the relevance, appropriateness, timing of audit evidence is an art that I cannot prescribe. There's always a documentation checklist, but there's never a bare minimum. You can have alternate audit procedures. You can have alternate ways and means of doing the same thing. And at times, those alternates lead to a better result or a better discovery of errors or disclosures than what the original evidence could have given you. Even that experience tells me. You wanting to say something?
There is one more question from my side. For example, I'm doing audit for an education institution,
Right.
which has several vehicles for flying off students and teachers.
Right.
And what I find is that they have insurance but they have never claimed, every year they never claim any insurance amount, but they spend lakhs of rupees on maintenance of those vehicles. So the bills will be there, everything would be there, the payment to the vendor would be there. So I'm unable to tell them that why either the vehicles are too old so that they are asking for so much of lakh of rupees of repair work. So apart from the petrol and other thing, driver salary, the maintenance is also running into lakhs of rupees. So I'm not able to convince them that how should I be, इसको कैसे मैं audit करूं या इसको कैसे मैं draw करूं to make them understand.
Very good point. And I will break it up. I will break up your thing for the benefit of everybody. You said you are auditing the insurance costs.
Yeah.
And in your example, you talked about maintenance expense. So first of all, I will say insurance, and I'm sorry, don't get me otherwise. Insurance.
No, I got your point.
Understood. So insurance.
All vehicles are insured.
What I would have told my team, or I would have done myself when I was on the floors doing the vouching, I would have looked into the maintenance costs either by high value or by random sample. I would have gone inside to discover if any accident repair, any denting or painting, any broken light being repaired, if that expense was coming directly into my repairs and maintenance, when those vehicles are very well insured and those should be claimed by the insurance claim, then I will go to the head of that department or whoever's looking. I will not go to the CFO. I will go to the person who's in charge of the vehicles and have a friendly cup of tea with them and say, tell me what happens if a vehicle, while getting the children or when it is going back empty, if it hits a tree or if it hits a cow or if it gets damaged somehow, everybody is safe. But what do you do after that? Then he will tell me, oh, probably, that instance was less, the cost was less than the no claim bonus that was going away. There is an explanation. We also do that. Your and my car, on every damage, we don't go running to the insurance claim. We calculate for ourselves whether it is within the no claim bonus and can I get away with. If it's in the very first month of the year, I will say get it repaired by the insurance because you can't guarantee that for the next 11 months you will not have a claim. But if it's in the 11th month and it's a minor damage, then might as well get it repaired myself and take the no claim bonus. So I'm just giving a hypothesis that nobody is out of their mind not to claim.
Yeah.
We need to go and ask. And when I raised that 5 questions, I said, when you ask the first question, your second question will come out of the answer. So when you probe, when you interview, when you go and just simply smile, sit and have a cup of tea, your answers will come out. And then the last thing that is possible could even be a fraud, that the insurance premium is going to a company which is not in the business of giving any insurances anywhere. It is owned by a relative of the promoter. We love to put the promoters in the bad light, but I'm just giving an example that it could be a related party. It could be some other thing going on. So yes, you have raised an example where I will not jump to that fraud. I will first want to interact with the person in the maintenance department and then with the CFO. And you just sit and ask them, I'm failing to understand why no claim is being made. If I was in your place, I would have done this. Why are you not doing it? Can I just understand? And that's where your audit evidence comes out. And probing, discussing, and minuting your discussions is also an audit evidence. And you have given me an opportunity to cover that. So you design them, you approve them, a very important thing that is there is you have to apply your professional judgment and see that the nature of the audit evidence, the timing of the thing, the balance between what is the cost it takes to get that evidence and what return or what kind of a assertion you're able to address. You just because you want some comfort, you will not go to the most expensive and the most relevant audit evidence. No, there has to be a cost benefit analysis as well. Not that I'm saying because of singular consideration you'll give away any audit evidence. No, but we should see nature, timing, and cost of any audit evidence, because there are alternative evidence available. Like there are generic medicines and branded medicines. There are alternate medicines and alternate evidences available, which can probably give us a reasonable assurance that the underlying debits, credits, presentation are true and fair. So we need to apply with experience. Now, what are the other other facts which are relevant when we talk quickly about the audit evidence? And I'm mindful of the time. We are reaching 5:15. So all the audit evidences, they are cumulative in nature. When we take one evidence from somewhere and one from another, our CPU, our mind, our methodology, our documentation helps us process them together. So they are all cumulative in nature. They are primarily obtained during the audit procedures being performed when the audit is going on. However, they could also be something which was obtained and kept 6 months back. The industry required that we send in our team for an interim procedure, or we were doing quarterly reporting at that client. So we could have taken audit evidence during the quarterly processes. We could have been part of a permitted non-audit service, which was done, or a due diligence or a buy-side due diligence on a target, which is if permitted, and you perform some procedures and whatever you obtained at that time, or on some contract the client had reached out to you during the year that, look, I want to discuss the transfer pricing implication towards the end of the year if I'm doing this. That contract could have come to you in the month of September, and you're performing the audit in the next year, April. So what I'm trying to say is never close your mind to seeing only the audit evidence which is coming at the end of the year. The audit evidence could be lying with you, for all you know, may have come to you throughout the year for some context or the other. It could have come to you. So you have to put it cumulatively into picture. Okay, you need to study their policies, their procedures, their manuals, their MIS, their way of reporting. What is the management's way of reviewing the business? That is where the answer lies. The way the management is reviewing the business, that's the same way the financial statement should be prepared, not in any different manner. Because how you measure your performance every day, that's how I need to present it to my readers of the financial statements. So I believe MIS is a very good source of seeing a hypothesis of what it should be. So it comprises of evidence both that corroborates what you are expecting, but at the same time, mind this, it's a very important word. Evidence can corroborate what you were expecting, or it can contradict what you were expecting. Both are equally an evidence. Either it corroborates or it contradicts. If it contradicts, then there comes in your audit qualification, unless adjusted, unless disclosed. If either of the two things are not done by the management, that is when you will go and say, I am modifying my opinion because I have not been able to obtain sufficient evidence to conclude otherwise. So a limitation on my conclusion is also a qualification, a disclaimer, right? Now, so audit evidence, as if I summarize for the benefit of all, it could be by inspection. I go and inspect something. It could be that I was observant. I was observing what was happening. It could be the confirmation, the debtors confirmation that you mentioned. You gave the statement confirmation from debtors, creditors, bank. It could be a recalculation. I remember doing depreciation predictive calculation, taking the assets, additions throughout the year, consider them to be half a year additions. A very simple thing, opening block of assets, all the purchases during the year, just take them as if they happened in half the year. All the sale, assume they happened in half the year, and then do a depreciation calculation. And it will never be exact, it will never be matching, but it will be within a good range of that number, Unless if it is really off, then the client will support you. You know what? My chunk of the capitalization happened in April itself, and you are doing a half year calculation. But see, 90% of my capex, my factory, my shed was done in April. So, you took half a year. Please, for this chunk of the addition, take 11 months. And the minute you tweak that recalculation with that one variant, material variant, your depreciation outcome matches with the depreciation that is there in the books of accounts. Matches, not matches to the rupee, I say within an acceptable range. But at the same time, there could be a compensating error in this as well. So you need to be mindful of what it is. So you recalculate, or you reperform something, or you do an analytical procedure, or you go and do an inquiry. So if you see, when we talked about the shop floor, the wastages, going and asking the management, inquiry was there. You went to the gates and saw things, inspection was there. Observant, you need to be always alert and observing. Confirmations, you only said to me. Recalculation, you're sitting when you've obtained everything, you're recalculating. Reperformance, you go and walk through the whole transaction. Inquiry, analytical procedures. All these are various types of audit evidences that our members, professionals on this webinar should make use. I will not say can make use. They should make use of all of them, and cumulatively they can help us arrive at a solution. Physical examination of asset is only one, and I was dealt with that going into huge warehouses or various industries that I used to do stock takes. And come December, we will be sent on 5 or 10 stock takes, catching a flight, catching a train, everywhere, depending on the nature of the product that is there, the nature of the raw material, the nature of the end product, finished goods, the nature of whether it's a seasonal thing, whether it's a chemical, whether it's a metal, whether it's a liquid, your procedures, your thought process would need to change. You cannot take them all in the same manner. And definitely the seniors who have worked in the industry before, the seniors who in the team, or your interaction with the client will equip you to change as per the industry involved. So that's on the audit evidence. If I see something else, if the recalculation, reperformance is fine, then let's see. One very important, people discourage it, but I would say we should not undermine it. But a written representation is also a very good audit evidence. It is not a sole evidence. It is not to be relied solely. It is not to be relied upon blindly. I'm talking about representation from the management. Many times we are cornered that after doing all our procedures, we still need to take written representations from TCWG, which is those charged with governance. As long as we are not blindly taking the audit evidence, as long as we are asking those 5 questions and validating that it's reasonably making sense, if we have done that, then our audit evidence by way of written representation is also a very important audit evidence to have. And that's where I would say now on the what is more reliable, more when I said reliability should be there in the audit evidence, you also already answered. If it is coming directly from a third party, with service coming from the client, relatively it is more reliable.
Yes.
Okay. If it is in a documented form, paper, electronic, or other medium other than a verbal, then it is more reliable. I'm not saying that verbal is not reliable. I'm only saying they're relatively more reliable. If the source is a trusted source, is a credible source, is a qualified source, then it is more reliable. And oral evidence or a opinion without a credibility is relatively less reliable, and you need to exercise your judgment over there. So on your competence, your capability, and your objectivity. When I say your, I'm talking about us as the professionals, our competence, our capabilities, and our objectivity, which is a very, very important word when it comes to objectivity, impartially, without subjective roles to play. If objectively we are going to question the relevance and reliability of an evidence, have that, skepticism, professional skepticism, and we see through that lens, I think we will never get it wrong. Our audit evidence will be there on the files to support the conclusion that we have arrived at. And if it is documented as per the SA 230 requirements, it's documented in the files, I'm sure the audit evidence will be taken care of. So I will just like to pause over here before I go to audit sampling. Vikasji, either you or the any question box or anywhere, if there is anybody's any question that is there, because till then there is test of controls, there is test of details, there are ways of doing audit evidence. Either you do, which I'll cover in the sampling. So I'll rather cover TOC and TOD in the sampling part of the discussion. I'm just asking you if there's any question that you have or anybody else has.
No, as far as evidence is, audit evidence is clear. I think it is more or less clear. You have amply elaborated on everything. Let us now just jump to the sampling part, because that is more technical session as to how to. Because मैं आपको सच बोलूँ, I don't know how. For us, 100% checking is much more better.
No. 100% checking is not better, is not efficient, and at times it may not be possible.
Yeah.
So I'm not giving any excuse to anybody. I'm not giving that you hide behind that. If you're auditing a manageable small setup, Vikasji,
Yeah.
our professionals can still attempt doing a 100% checking, but 100% checking, science has proved it, will not give you any incremental comfort. If you employ sampling and all that we discussed on audit evidence, if
Yeah.
you apply sampling, there's a how should I say, there's a whole science behind sampling, which is not only in auditing, but is in other walks of life as well. And I will share with you this. The office knows Anilji, when he contacted me, he remembered, I may have told him before, that back in 2008, 2009, 2008 or 2010, I don't know which year it was, but would you believe I flew down to the United States 4 times in a span of 4 months. So every 1 month I used to come back, homesick or a privilege of coming back after 3 weeks or something. I was going to New York. From New York, I was catching another flight to Cleveland. There's a place called Cleveland. And in the months of December to March, it snows over there. And you have snow till the knee depth. Your feet completely goes down. You have to wear boots. You have to wear overcoat. So I would have flown a 20-hour flight, direct flight to New York 4 times in 4 months. And would you believe what I was doing for the entire 4 months over there? I was only working on sampling, audit sampling. So I was part of a global core team, which was developing the audit sampling methodology, toolkits, science, policies and procedures. So there was a project that came part of the global network, and I got the opportunity to go and work. And there were people from Japan, there were people from Australia, I was from India. Till date today, 14 years, I'm still in touch with the people who I met over there on that project. So it helps you networking as well. It helps you know people as well from different geographies, different walks of life. And what we were doing for 4 months was hardcore developing sampling techniques and sampling theory. So it is quite in-depth science. Nobody can do justice on it on any 1 hour, 2 hours. As I said, I spent 4 months in New York on that. But definitely, in the interest of the webinar and the the talk, I would say what you said is very important. We as humans like to take the maximum evidence, like to take the maximum coverage. What if the fear of what if something gets left out? What if I do a sampling and the error is lying in the sample that I did not check? Now, that is, I will say, and don't mind, I'm not personal over here, but I talk like this only. That's a little pessimistic. That's a little pessimistic way of looking at it, because if you can establish to those charged with governance and to NFRA and to QRB peer reviewers that you are not biased. Remember, the last thing that I said on the audit evidence part was objectivity. If you can establish by way of your documentation, by way of your discussion, when somebody is asking you that you were objective, you don't have to say, I was objective. When you explain what you did, why you did, and when it is documented in the files, then there is a whole established rulings in our profession that which is documented and a reasonable third party will not question the objectivity and will agree that sufficient procedures were performed, then it is good enough. And even if then inadvertently, even if a material error was left out, I'm sure that is not our intention. None of us want that to happen. But by a stroke of bad luck, if a material adjustment is also missed out by the auditor, it is not a crime as long as you are objectively going about doing it, as long as you are documenting your approach, and as long as you have experienced people reviewing the performance, so that one is a preparer, one is a reviewer, one is a signing partner who should review again. If three minds applied and still didn't think of any more to be done, then let's not have the fear. I'm going on record to all the people attending. Let's not run in this fear that what if something got left out. So let me say, if tomorrow you are auditing Reliance, or you are auditing Wipro, or you are auditing Infosys, or you are auditing ITC, tell me which audit firm, and you can name any of the 50, 100, 1,000, 2,000 companies in India alone. Tell me which audit firm can do 100% evidence review. What army of article interns and qualified would you need to deploy? And remember, I remember what I said at the time of audit evidence: cost involved. Cost is not only the salaries you're paying to them, cost is the disruption in the business as well when you are auditing the business. When the shop floor person has to interact with the auditor, I'm not saying he's doing me a favor, but there is a time being spent. How much for what? If you find a particular area, a particular section, very important, I think you've given me a very good point that is nowhere in the presentations. When you go and talk to the management, when you are understanding the business, when you are asking them their concerns, and I do that, I openly ask the top management, the directors, the promoters, the CFO, tell me, we are your extended arms and ears and eyes. We have a fiduciary responsibility of an external audit, but we are also, whatever we are going to surface, whatever we are going to discover is going to help you if you want to. If you want to improve, then it will help you as well. So tell me, whether in your purchases, whether in your closing stock valuation, whether in your loading of expenses, whether in your wastages, in which area you yourself have a concern that there could be something missing inadvertently. I will do extended audit procedures in that section with a purpose. Some pockets I can do 100% because I have a high risk or an expectation to strengthen that, or a concern that it's a weak area for the organization. There, if you do 100%, again on the size and scale of the companies that I named, 100% in any one particular area will be next to impossible. But what I'm trying to say is, if you do 100% in some particular area because of a concern, because of expectation, it is still acceptable. Other than that, I will go on record and say it is not required. And for that reason, you have SA 530, which should give you the comfort that if our documented literature is talking about sampling, then it means it's very well acceptable that you can do sampling. But it cannot be a judgmental. It can be judgmental sampling at places. I get up and I don't want to spend much more time. Today evening, I have movie tickets with my wife and I want to go home. So I will say, okay, just give me the top 3 revenue receipts, revenue invoices, and my revenue is done. I've done the top 3 contracts and I go home. That's not objective. That is subjective, because my determination was governed by my movie ticket and was not governed by my completeness of revenue or the revenue cutoff or the number of revenue that is going in. So if my sample design, size, selection of items for testing, if they are all objectively, scientifically, unbiased manner, if that sampling is done, that sampling is acceptable. Not only acceptable, that is the way to do the audits, because when we talk further on extrapolation, when we talk about scientific sampling, when we talk about stratification, I'll quickly do it and we will still be within the time that you have given. I am saying that will help us establish why audit procedures must be performed with sampling as a technique, audit technique. Now, nature and cause of deviation and misstatement. As I said, if you have a reason to believe that there are some deviations, some misstatements, either by previous year audit experience or by a retiring or a resigning auditor may have given that indication in their letter to you. Management may have expressly asked. There could be some press reviews, press notes about some allegations or something. There could be a whistleblower. There could be an internal audit finding. There could be minutes of meetings that you reviewed where some mention could be there. So all of them, when you study and then you devise your audit evidence and audit sampling, you will have a scientific way of reaching to any problem or a disclosure, either an adjustment or a disclosure. So that's how I will say my thing. It should, sampling should be based on. It should help us in projecting misstatements as well. I will cover that very quickly. If you permit me, I'll just have a glass of just a sip of water.
Sure. Sure.
So there are two ways of doing. As you said, 100% checking. Any extent of extensive checking would be a test of detail. And then we go in a concept called test of controls. TOC, test of controls. Test of details is TOD. So all of us across India, across the globe who are participating over here and are attending, I'm sure you evaluate your results of your samples to help arrive at an adjustment number or a disclosure number or a dialogue with the management as to what more needs to be done. Because anything for me? All under control? Yeah. So designing and selecting your audit sample is with the purpose of performing either a test of control or a test of detail. And the purpose is to evaluate the results that came out of the sample and then see what more do I need to do. Do I need to extend my sample? Do I need to extrapolate the result on a bigger population? Do I need to give a disclaimer that it's not conclusive enough? Do I need to employ an expert? So all your outcomes of your test of details and test of controls both of them are techniques. The outcomes would be same again. I go about getting a comfort, whether I went by test of control or I went by test of detail or by a mix of both. There is no mandatory requirement that if you have chosen the approach test of control, then in all areas you will do test of control. No, if anybody says that, I differ. My test of controls and my test of detail, my 100% vouching, my sampling should be by the areas that I'm doing. Only then I will get a desired result. And the desired result is always adequate, good enough comfort for you and me to be able to sign the balance sheet in our name and our membership number, that tomorrow we can look into the eyes of anybody and with confidence say that when I was signing this opinion, I was very well in control and I believed what I signed. When we can look into the eyes of anybody and say that with conviction, we can only say that if our evidence on the files is there to support us, if our sampling is unbiased and as per the industry and as the timing and the assertion, if all that is there, there should be no fear and we should smilingly, confidently say, I did what I did and I did it right. Tell me anybody else who could have done something different. Slight differences can be there, but is it a mandatory difference? Is it a difference that has led to my audit being insufficient? If somebody proves that, I will take the penalty. I will take a disciplinary action. I will take a restitution as well. I will take a bar for a year or 2 years of auditing as well. But you will first need to funnel it and show it to me that I was lacking. So sampling, evidence, documentation, conviction, objectivity, honesty, ethics, all these help us execute our responsibilities with full conviction and authority. So please The audit sampling should provide a reasonable basis, help you draw conclusions, and the entire population should be covered. Entire population doesn't need to be covered by 100% auditing. Entire population should be available for sampling. It should be possible that any random scientific sampling could have picked up any sample out of that. Now, there are various ways. As you said, it's a very technical subject. There are various ways of going about doing it, how you stratify the population, how you dissect the population. In some part, I said you do 100% sampling. In some part, you do a variance analysis. In some, you do a predictive. In some, you do a test of control, say 15 or 25 or 45 transactions. If you find an error, you increase it to 60. You find another error, you increase it to 100. If there are multiple errors which are above a limit which is there in the science, then you go all out and say the test of controls is failing. In this entity, the design and the operating effectiveness of controls is not there. I am unable to do a control-based audit. Now, if timelines, time being taken to do the audit, timelines by when I need to complete the audit, and I should be reasonably paid for my efforts. Nothing wrong in that. If all these stack up, then I am able to do the audit. If not, then either I can resign or I can give a disclaimer. I can very well resign and say either the timelines are not permitting me, time is not enough, I'm not getting paid enough, or I'm not being entitled, not being given the access to all the records that I want to see. And if such limitations are there, either I will qualify my opinion, I will give a disclaimer, or I will resign. So maybe resignation is very difficult and raises much more antennas and all. It's to be the last resort. But you should never be under a duress that if there are undue, unwarranted restrictions on your scope of auditing, you should not accept the assignment or should not sign the audit report. You should have the erect spine to say no and walk away. And you will still get paid for the efforts that you made till that day. That's a professional relationship that you have. What are the sampling risks? If when you are doing a sampling, tell me, Vikasji, what kind of risks that come to your mind? When you were in your clients wanting to do 100%, what kind of risks you think that if Sunil has come and said sampling kar lo, but maybe there could be some risks left around. What are those risks that come to your mind?
The only risk that is there in my mind is if some material mistake has been deliberately done by the management, and if I am only doing test checking based upon monthly basis or a figure that is above a lakh rupees.
I will hold you here. Beautifully. You said it beautifully. My concern and the sleepless nights that I have is, what if a material error gets away? Because I'm doing every month, random, okay. Sir, nothing stops you from doing the top 15, top 8, top 25, and random sampling on the others. So I sort the data pool by value. I take the top numbers. I am getting a very decent coverage as well. And then from the balanced population, I put them in a sampling tool and I take out a sample. Now in them, something could be only 1,000 rupees. And that random sampling gave that sample that 1,000, which is stated as 1,000, is actually supposed to be 10 lakh. So your random sampling can help you. From the lower numbers, is there an error? And you have to draw your comfort. You have mandatorily done 100% of the top value items. You can do a hybrid. You can do a hybrid sampling. There's again no one stopping you. So to answer that, what other risks? Let's go to some other risks that you see in your possibility of a risk if you do a test of control or a test of detail based on sampling.
Yeah, and one more thing, if the internal controls are being exercised and if my sample suggests that the internal controls are there and they are a system where checks and balances are there.
Now, what you're saying is, I'll turn this. It can give me a comfort that all is working. Yeah. It can give me a false comfort that all are working. You never know. You tested a test of control. By a stroke of luck, in those the control failure was not there. So we run that risk. However, as I said 10 minutes back in the conversation, there are various alternate procedures, hypotheses, understanding of the business, talking to people, experienced people being on the team, all that help. The partner's experience in the, who's signing, he or she, I'm sure, is much more experienced than the article interns. So all put together will help the firm in reaching a required outcome. Now, it could be when we are not doing a sampling, the risk is again time, money, and exhaustion and lack of focus. When you have to do all, you will lose focus. There will be some anomalies. Sampling units may have some errors. So all that is there when you avoid doing any sampling. Sampling is definitely based on a probability theory. I will, being politically incorrect on this, it's like a Russian roulette. If you go in a casino and there are 36 numbers and a 0 and a 00, the chances are 1:38. Now, 1:38, the same number 7 may come 3 times in the last 10 numbers, but it is on a theory of infinity. That if you rule that roulette for a year, 2 year, 3 year, the chances of every number coming is always 1:38. Maybe you've not done it enough number of times repeatedly to arrive at that conclusion. But the sampling techniques are based on that every number has a probability of coming single unit divided by the population sample size. Now, you may do it 1 year, 2 year, 2 quarters, 3 quarters. But when over a period the science is applied, it always throws out the outcome that every number stood an equal chance to come in your sample. That is a fair sampling technique, which is unbiased, which is not impacted by my wanting to go to a movie with my movie today evening and thus let's quickly do these 4 or 5. I want to see this contract as per the sample. The CFO says, oh, this contract has gone for signatures or is in that person's cupboard. It is logged. You leave that. I'm giving you another sample. Just change your sample number. This contract is ready. It will save your time. It will save my time. I'm telling you, many finance clients, team members have tried to do this, to tell you, you have asked for this sample, but I took out these 5 contracts for some other reason. You want to see 5, it will all filed in the different files. Taking them out will take time. Oh, for some other reason, I took out these 5 contracts for my director. They are readily available. Why don't you see 5? And an unsuspecting article intern or a manager may fall for it. And say, okay, I had to do 5. My senior told me to do 5 contracts. I might as well take these 5. Then I just go and change the samples by hand or something over there. That's where a record in the audit evidence in your files. How did you arrive at the sampling numbers, random numbers? What was the random tool you used? If I run that key, it will give the same random number output if there's a sampling tool being used. Or objectively, you document how you've gone about doing it. Subjective sampling will always get you into trouble. So as a signing partner, you will need to talk to your team members, your managers, your article interns, and probe them as to how did they go about doing the sampling. Best is to sit in advance when you're doing the audit planning, guide your team members as to how the sample should be arrived at. Otherwise, you run the risk of the science failing. You will need
any written formula for driving a sample?
There are tools available. There are electronic
tools. For example,
tools.
There are account heads in manufacturing. There are account heads in profit and loss account. There are accountants in trading. Can a same sample be applied to all different account heads, or?
I will rephrase your question. Are there separate sampling techniques or tools for separate areas of balance sheet? My answer is no. Sample is always from a population. 1 lakh items, 10,000 items, 500 items, 643 items are there. So the number of entries or the number of items are your denominator. You are wanting to test 25, 45, 60, 100. That's your numerator. Now, from this pool of numbers, which 60, 65 you will test, whether it is in purchase, whether it's in closing stock, whether it's in capital assets additions, whether it's in depreciation calculation, PF, gratuity, retirement settlement, whichever area you're auditing, you need to randomly or high value and randomly need to take out the sample, so that if inadvertently or intentionally any mistake has been made, then the sampling should help you discover this. That's the intention, nothing else. And then when you discover it, you extend the sample. Then maybe I discovered one or two, but is it prevalent? You extend the sample. Then you do a root cause analysis. Why did this happen? Were the controls not there? Were the controls not even designed? Were they not operating effectively? If you reach at either of these two answers, that the controls do not exist or they were not operating effectively, then you cannot do a sampling technique. Absence of a control framework or an operating and design framework, you cannot go controls based approach. And if it's a large organization, then the time, fees, timeliness will not permit you to do the audit. It will be a scope limitation. It will be a scope limitation. And that's why you see many clients cannot come out with the results on time. They seek extension of time. For a year, 2 years, the results don't come out. I'm not saying always this is the reason, but many times the time needed to audit them is not sufficient and they miss the deadlines. So that's what it is. Tolerable error, I've already discussed and explained that all of us, given the industry and size of the organization, there is a science around a tolerable error, that if you can get your errors to be within that number, if the management adjusts them, fine. If it doesn't adjust them, still it doesn't need to be qualified in the financial statements. You can get away with doing it. So there are statistical sampling, there is random sampling, there are various techniques of sampling, Vikasji, which are there in theory. We can take a full day on that. Random number, sampling interval, sample size and population size. In simple layman term to all the audience, I will say, if every sample has a fair, equitable probability of coming in your sample, that is the best sample, because a human bias has not impacted the selection of the sample. If a human bias is not impacting, human bias should impact on high value transactions, because you wanted to sleep well in the night, you wanted to do high value. So do random and then still do high value, or do the lowest value, because there could be hidden high values there. So just apply some random and then do some selective cherry picking of your sampling, so that by stroke of luck, you're able to reach a due outcome. It's not an investigation. It is not a forensic audit, but skepticism, your experience will let you determine what size and what spread you need to have. And as I said, you need to project. If in a sample, you're sure that's a representative sample and an error has come, you will still not go and do a 100% audit. You will request the management either to explain or to take a projected, extrapolated adjustment in the books of account. That's also an expected audit methodology. So with that, I would say I have more or less covered what I came in my mind. But if you have any question or anybody else, we have a couple of minutes still left in this webinar, and I profusely apologize. I apologize for the presentation, that I couldn't run. But I always say there's a blessing in disguise. I liked it more when I was not curtailed within the slide boundaries, and I could speak to you, Vikasji, more on a practical manner without the slides. I liked this better, but to the audience, I apologize for the 5-minute delay in between.
My still one small question: is there any percentage that need to be part of the sample of the whole population that is there for audit? Is there something like, there is nothing like subjectiveness into it, but still a threshold of percentage need to be audited? Or there, like for example, so tomorrow if some problems come and NAFRA or other controlling agencies, they say that the percentage is very less. But is there any such question?
I'll answer this. I can be hauled up on this. I'm standing here and saying, and this is being recorded, you will nowhere find anywhere in the Indian literature or the global literature you will nowhere find any minimum threshold coverage required of test of detail. What you are asking me is a test vouching.
Yeah.
You're not asking me, but I will answer this slightly differently. I'm repeating, there's nowhere written that capitalization 70% needs to be vouched. Revenue 80% needs to be vouched. CapEx 45% needs to be vouched. I am repeating, with my 26 years of experience, I can stand test of trial. Nowhere in the Indian literature or global literature is a minimum percentage given. However, not to be misinterpreted, what it all says is, how do you reach a comfort on an entire population? Either you do a test of detail, test of control, predictive analysis, variance analysis, discussions. How all put together were you able to reach a state of conclusion that a material misstatement doesn't exist? Now, a mix of these can be various percentages depending upon your client, industry, nature, internal controls. So all of them differ. Why do for every flu and every time you have a cold, why do you need to go to a doctor? Tell me, in your age, 40, 42, 43, whatever is your age, sir, in that age, means you didn't tell me that you are 50 plus. I was giving you a margin of error of 10 years, but you didn't tell me. I was giving you 42 thinking that you will say, no, I'm 48, but you didn't correct me.
Yeah.
Joke. I was giving
46, sir. 46.
So I still gave you 41, 42. No? So I give you a margin of error of 4 years, you look younger. Whenever in 41 years, suppose, and I don't want you to, but if you had got common cold, suppose, I'm saying multiple times in your life, did you take the same medicine every time that you had the cold? Or did you go to the doctor and the doctor, while examining you, whether you have a bulgum, the green bulgum or yellow, whether you have a cough, whether you have this symptom. So depending on your body symptoms, which can be different in every common cold, your medicine will change. You know how many types of cough syrups exist? Once I was asked to get one particular cough syrup for my cousin's sister. And that day when I went searching with the same name, Tuscon or something, you have Tuscon L, Tuscon MD, Tuscon P, Tuscon LP. I went mad. All the salts are different with different alphabets and they are all addressing cold. Formulations are different for different symptoms. In the same way, sir, when we are auditing, depending on first the nature of the industry, the design and operating effectiveness of controls, our trust, our environment study, we will need to devise either a test of control or a test of detail, combined with predictive analysis, variance analysis, other hypotheses, cutoffs, confirmations, all put together will give us the comfort to sign the opinion. There is no percentage minimum prescribed anywhere in the globe. You need to have 90% plus comfort, and that comfort could be test of control, detail, variance analysis, predictive analysis, inquiry. Could be a mix of these.
Right, sir. Understood.
So that is what Vikasji I came with, but as I said, either you or anybody, if there's anything, people reach out to the office also. We can answer, later as well. But I leave it to your office to decide how to, if there are any queries.
I don't think there is. I think I have all my questions have been resolved by you, sir. Thank you very much once again.
Sir, you have covered all the questions, sir?
Yes.
You have covered all the questions, sir?
More or less, yeah. Sampling.
I have given you, sir, all the questions, sir, till now.
Sir, can I ask you a few questions because they are above my... so can
Please.
I ask you? Sir, there is one question. How to deal the foreign related party transactions with markup and reimbursement at cost when company does not have proper agreements?
How to deal with foreign related party transactions, which are reimbursement of cost.
Yeah.
Okay. when there are no agreements.
A company does not have proper agreements.
So I'll tell you, I've dealt with it. I've audited a consulting services industry for many, many years. If a cost recharge comes from an overseas office and they are charging you that your employee went to that New York office of theirs for work, for India office work, he stayed in a hotel, went to had food over there, hired a taxi. So there are cost recharge coming to you. New York office, India office employee went to that city, working for an India client, but that office paid for the hotel, taxi, food bills, and now they are sending that invoice to India office that look, your employee came for your work. Here is this simple thing that I'm asking you, sir. Shouldn't his passport have a stamp that he went to US on that date and came back? So the passport will have a corresponding date of entry and exit from India and entry and exit into New York, USA. I'm just saying, if an employee name charge has come your way for a big amount of expense reimbursement, did that person even travel on that day? So suppose the passport doesn't show that. I'm just giving one indirect way of catching whether it's a fraudulent charge or not. Likewise, the receipts, likewise, what was the purpose of the visit? What is it that was done at that time? If a cost recharge is coming for employing an expert, invoice has been paid for an expert. What did that expert give you as an output? Did they give you an analysis? Did they give you a study? What was the deliverable that you got? Please show it to us. If nothing exists, what did you pay for? Publications were sent. What did you do? You got 100 copies of the publication. Oh, I sent it to my clients. Can I see a few courier slips? Because couriers would have taken them and you would have had courier expenses. Can I correlate that expense of cost recharge with a related expense that would have happened in India? Can I correlate actually that activity took place? In that itself, Vikasji, you discover that they are not stacking up. And then you go back to that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 question after question. And if there's an error or a fraud or a excessive billing, it comes out. It comes out. There are ways and means of getting it.
So one last question.
Please.
How the auditor manager can decide which sampling method is best suited for a particular audit? Because if one particular sampling method is deployed and it gives an extraordinary sample size for which the audit firm may not have sufficient manpower to complete that audit, how to manage this situation?
I would say if you don't have sufficient manpower, get sufficient women power along, and then combined with the manpower and women power, you will be able to do better. And in all seriousness, I'm saying that. But you are right. Many times, the sampling outcome, as I said, the population size could be very high. You will need to see whether your time, efforts are enabling that, or how you can do the coverage by way of. Sorry, if the committee room can go on mute, please. The ICI committee room, if office can go on mute, please. There's some. Yeah. So Vikasji, that happens many times. The sampling numbers comes out very high. I'm not saying that we need to mandatorily go there. We have to see the control, design, and effectiveness. I'm repeating it again. Only if the control, design, and effectiveness is there, somebody is already doing controls in the client side, then you can rely on the control environment of the client. You can rely on the automation that they already have. You can rely on the SAP, Oracle, whatever platform they are using. If you get their technology controls tested, if their user changes are tested, that the passwords are there with only known people, any change log is there, then you can rely on the IT controls of that organization and you can reduce the sample and do more of variance analysis and predictive analysis. So initially the number can come very high. We can moderate it down with alternate procedures and still draw the comfort on 90% plus population. It will have to be a mix of strategies. There cannot be one answer, and the mix of strategies will depend on the client environment, controls environment, product environment, our capabilities and experiences.
Right, sir. So thank you for bearing me out, sir, for
No,
this.
sir, I am grateful that you allowed me to have a dialogue with you so that we
I
could talk to others.
I think this is for the first time that you have to share the entire session with one person, and same is with me. And I have learned everything. I've learned two things: ask more questions, and open your ears and
Alert,
eyes.
alert.
Always open your ears
Yes,
and eyes.
sir.
I will just share a trivia. If nobody knows, my passport tells me that I'm born in Calcutta. Though I'm a Marwadi from Rajasthan, but I'm born in Calcutta. So when my company sent me to an audit in Durgapur,
Yeah.
and I went to Durgapur, and people can guess there's one big factory over there, and I was sitting there and auditing there for 2 months. I never told anybody that I'm born in Calcutta. They all never knew that I understand Bengali. So many times they were conversing in Bengali and they were telling this should be given, this should not be given, presented in this manner. And I used to sit with a poker face and pretend that I'm not understanding anything, and then go to the junior person and ask exactly for that thing or something related. And then on the last day, when I was going back, I said, "Oi, amar singara, teen rokum bon, masala bhitore ghusle ki rokum." So then they knew that I could understand Bengali, and we had a great laugh. So I was observant, I was listening to everything, but I did not show that I understand. And I'm not saying that there's a mistrust, I'm saying good fun that you can still arrive at a conclusion and do your work.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
Sir,
you.
sorry, sir. Vikas, sir. I am having one question for you, sir. Sunil, sir.
Please.
Sir, this is relating to the automobile industry.
Yes.
Automobile part manufacturing company is having fixed asset register in which so many machines purchased, and in accounting they have entered in the books with a separate name in the production shop. They have given separate names to the machinery, and discarded machinery are used as raw materials subsequently without any evidences. So not possible to check the physically. So what would be our reservation in this case when we don't have the proper documentation?
So when the person is asked with a lack of proper documentation, the easy answer is this is a scope limitation. Easy answer. This is not the correct and the complete answer. Easy answer is that it's a scope limitation. If it is discovered in the planning stage of audit, suppose you were doing some initial procedures before commencing the audit, like before getting appointed, you are going and doing a controls review and you discovered this there. You can give the management a due intimation well in advance that look, in this area, I need a proper tagging, proper number control with the name, the machine number should be there. And you ask them to prepare the fixed assets register in that manner. And in the CARO, if suppose a cutoff comes in, you can still give a CARO modification. But if suppose I take to the worst case scenario, this we didn't discover, we come to know during the year-end audit. Suppose it's not a listed company and we are doing it at the year-end, a private company, but this problem comes in. I will still, with the name register, go to the machine, go to the shop floor on a test basis, random test basis. I will see the name. I will ask the person, the client person with me, to plot the number control on them and see whether they are capitalized and working. When the person who asked, he said, discarded machinery is used as raw material. I am sorry, I am saying machinery cannot be used as a raw material. Only, maybe the person wanted to say something else, because of parts of an automobile, and I have done automobile industry for many, many years, from seating to pistons to tires to lamps and lights and to the wiring harness. I have audited all these industries. Oil. So I've done automobiles industry. Capex machinery is never shown as a raw material. But yes, what is shown is the discarded machinery is still being depreciated and not written off if they don't want to take a hit. That's where your shop floor walking once, twice after 5 days will help. I came last time as well, and today also I'm not seeing this machine in operation. You don't ask the finance guy. You ask the shop floor guys a random question. When do you use this machine? Oh no, sir, this paint shop is out of order. This paint shop is not working for last 2 years. Wow. I have an accelerated depreciation or a write-off. Let me now go and ask the management, when did you last use this paint shop? No, we haven't used it. Please accelerate, depreciate it. So unless I understand the raw material being used as a consumable, I think I've tried to answer the other parts of the question.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, sir. Chairman, sir, you are having any question?
No, sir. I'm done. Thank you.
We are-
Thank you, Sunilji. You want a vote of thanks?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much on behalf of Auditing and Assurance Standard Board of Institute of Chartered Accountant of India. I extend my heartiest thanks towards Sunil Bajaj ji for sparing his valuable time and enlighten all of us with the various intricacies on this audit evidence and audit sampling. So you have covered both the standard in a very lucid manner. We have gained a lot through your deliberation, and I extend my heartiest thanks towards the Honorable Chairman, Jammu and Kashmir branch, CA Vikas ji, for joining AASB for this particular webinar as well as co-hosting this webinar and sparing his valuable time. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for sparing time and co-hosting this webinar, sir. Thank you so much on behalf of
pleasure was
AASB.
mine, and thank you, Sunilji. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I thank you all the participants for
All the
today's
participants
webinar.
for
Thank you,
joining.
sir.
All the best.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.